All right, we're going to evaluate the polynomial 6x squared plus 11x minus 20 when x is negative 1. So just like we've done in the last couple of sections, they're giving us a value for x, and we're going to plug it in to whatever x we see in our original expression. So I'm going to plug in wherever there's an x, I'm going to plug in a negative 1. So 6 times negative 1 squared plus 11 times negative 1 minus 20. So to simplify, remember I have to work the exponent first. So negative 1 times negative 1 is going to give me a positive 1. So it's going to be 6 times 1, which is 6. And again, if you need to see that one worked out, let me just do it a little slower. Let's see. So I have 6 times negative 1 times negative 1. And negative 1 times negative 1 is just positive 1. And 6 times positive 1 is just 6. Here I have 11 times negative 1. That's going to give me a negative 11. And then bring down my negative 20. So I'm going to just keep bringing these down. And so if I have 2 at a time, I have different signs. I'm going to subtract, take the sign of the bigger number. Here I have the same sign, so I'm going to add and keep the sign. And that's your answer in simplest form. And I'm going to leave that there at the top so you can see it. And we're going to do our like terms review. Like terms are terms that have the same variables raised to the same exponents. And remember, order doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have x squared y and then yx squared, as long as you have the same variables raised to the same exponents. So let's combine like terms. So I have 14y cubed and negative 10y cubed that are like. And our numbers 3 and 9 are like. So I'm going to look at the numerical coefficients in front of the variables. So 14 minus 10, different signs. I'm going to subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number is positive, so my answer is positive 4y cubed. For my numbers, I have a positive 3 and a negative 9, different signs. I'm going to subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number is negative, so my answer is going to be a negative 6. This is in simplest form because I do not have any more like terms. Now the next one, let's look at it. I have 23y squared, and there's no other, I said y, 23x squared, and there's no other x in this entire problem. So that 23x squared needs to come down into my answer. I do have x's that are like, so I have a negative 6x and a negative 1x. Remember, there's an understood 1. I have the same sign, so I'm going to add and keep the sign. So it's going to be a negative 7. 6 plus 1 is 7, and I kept the sign negative. Bring down your x. Now notice that I don't have any other numbers, so that minus 15 is just going to come into my answer. So 23x squared minus 7x minus 15 is in simplest form because I do not have any more like terms. Okay, and the last one we have has a lot of fun stuff in it. Now this one's a little harder to figure out what's like and what's not because a lot of the things look similar. So notice that we have an x squared y squared. We also have an x squared y squared here, but it's out of order. I have the y squared first, but remember, order doesn't matter, so you're only looking to make sure you have an x squared, a y squared, a y squared. It doesn't matter which one comes first. Here I have a y squared. I also have a y squared there, so those are going to be like terms also. And then last, my x squares. I have 2x squared. So I'm going to have like terms with everything. So the first one that I'm going to do is my x squared, y squares. So I have a 7 and a negative 4. Different signs. I'm going to subtract. 7 minus 4 is 3. The bigger number is positive, so my answer is positive. So positive 3, x squared, y squared. And it doesn't matter which one you write first because it's the same thing. Now let's look at our y squares. I have a positive 2y squared and a negative 1y squared. Different signs. I'm going to subtract. Take the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number is positive, so I'm going to have a positive 2 minus 1 is just 1 y squared. Now remember, you don't want to write your 1 in your course compass homework because that will not be in simplest form. So just y squared. Now let's look at our x's. I have a positive 1x squared and a positive 5x squared, the same sign, so I'm going to add and keep the sign. 1 plus 5 is 6, so 6x squared is in simplest form. This whole thing is in simplest form because I have no more like terms. Now we're getting into like terms, then in section 3.4 we'll get into adding and subtracting polynomials.